Hey everyone, this video is going to be a basic guide on how to stay safe in the Black Zone. So I'm going to start with the super basics for super new people, like just how to get into the Black Zone, but then very shortly move into some more important and intermediate things to making sure that you actually stay safe once you're playing in the Black Zone. So to get to the Black Zone, you just have to go to any of the Royal City towns, and if you open up the map, there will be this large glowing portal of that town's color near the north of it. If you just go over there and zone into it, you'll see a large glowing door-like thing that takes up your entire screen. You just click on it and you'll have 3 options to go into the Black Zone. Now the most important thing is that the first zones that you zone into are going to be one of 3 portal zones. There's north, there's east, and there's west. In these zones, at the portal that you came out of, as well as all of the gates to adjacent zones, will have these yellow pools by them, and you can drink them once every 10 minutes to become invulnerable and invisible for 2 minutes, or until you zone into the next zone. So every time you go out into the Black Zone, make sure that yellow juice is off cooldown, and then take it right away before going to where you want to go. Another thing to note is that often there'll be a lot of people on the portal themselves and they'll try to attack you as soon as you come out. The most important thing is just not to panic because they can't actually hurt you. Just go, take your yellow juice, and then leave. They won't be able to harm you at all. Now along with this, another important thing to staying safe in the Black Zone is knowing bubble mechanics. Essentially every time you zone into a new zone or a new area, you get a bubble which essentially makes you invulnerable for a short period of time. Now bubble mechanics can be quite confusing and there's a lot to them, so I'm just going to put it very simply for this video. Essentially every time that you get a bubble by zoning into a zone or a new area, it will last either for a short amount of time or until you move a certain distance away from where you got that bubble from. Really what this means is that if you zone into a zone and there's someone there that you're scared of and you don't want to go in that zone, you have some time, don't panic and just zone back to where you came from. Okay, so moving on to the more intermediate stuff, the absolute most important thing to staying safe in the Black Zone is inspecting every single person that you see. Really, in the Black Zone, half the people you don't have to care about and they're no threat to you, and the other half you really do have to run from as soon as you see them. The default inspect key is Y, and essentially if you have a target highlighted and you press Y, you can see their gear very quickly, and you should be doing this on literally every single person that you see in the Black Zone. Now, really, it's going to take some game knowledge and experience to know what kind of gear you have to watch out for, but I'll give you some examples here. So the most dangerous people by far in the Black Zone are gankers, people that are specifically out looking for people that don't want to fight back so that they can kill them in large groups. Gankers will have for weapons things like claws, double-bladed staves, frost staves, and maces. Their helmets are usually fiend cowls or stalker hoods. Their chest pieces are often graveguard armors and fiend robes. Those 2 specifically are really easy and important to look out for, and then their shoes are often hunter shoes, although those are pretty generic, so look more towards the weapon and chest piece. If you zone into a zone and inspect someone that's, say, on the gate with you, and they have gear that looks like this, you really just have to zone back because that zone is not going to be safe. There's going to be gankers in there and they're going to follow you as soon as you zone in and kill you as soon as you get far enough away from the gate. Now, if you are getting chased by gankers, there's a ton that goes into making sure you stay safe and don't get ganked. Because there's so much that goes into it, really that's a topic for a whole nother video, but essentially the number 1 rule is just to go back the way you came, because normally that's going to be the safest option. Okay, so making sure that you always drink your yellow juice when you go out, and then inspecting everyone and seeing who's threatening to you and when you have to run away are by far the 2 most important things to staying safe, but I'm just going to go over a couple more sort of tips and tricks and helpful things to help you keep even more safe while you're in the Black Zone. So my first tip is to make sure that you keep your eyes ahead of you where you're going and not on your character. Our eyes tend to naturally fall on our character because it's the center of our screen and it's our character, but really that doesn't keep you the most safe because you can't reliably see ahead of you then, and so things like invisible gankers will be able to get the jump on you instead of you being able to see them first. My second tip is that if you're in the open world doing some activity like gathering for example, make sure you respect any reds that you see. Often you'll see reds on the edge of your screen pass by, and really you need to make sure that you go, mount up, and look to see what they were, or else there's a good chance that you're suddenly going to get ganked out of nowhere. Another important aspect of making sure that you stay safe in the Black Zone is choosing the right gear. Even the very best player making no mistakes with the best gear for escaping can die in the Black Zone if they just happen to get into an unlucky situation. So really, you sort of have to just expect to die if you're going out into the Black Zone. Make sure you don't take anything that you're not willing to lose. The best mentality that I've heard of is to view your gear as consumable. You spend a certain amount of silver to pay for your set, expect to consume it in the Black Zone and to lose it, and to get more value out of whatever activity you're doing that's worth the cost of that gear. For example, if you're going out to do solo dungeons and you take a tier 6 solo dungeon set that's worth around 200k, even if you do happen to die, you'll get your money's worth just because you'll be doing solo dungeons, getting that money back in silver bags and in fame. Another mistake I often see new players make with their gear is not bringing an appropriate mount. The first thing is that speed is really important in the Black Zone, so you never want to be taking a slow mount. Even if you're gathering and you need carry weight, make sure you take something like a stag over something like an ox, because if you take an ox, there's a really good chance that you're just going to die as soon as one ganker sees you because they can just run you down so easily. The second thing is to make sure that your mount is appropriate for the gear that you're wearing. I've seen people wearing their special mount that they get from the monthly reward with like tier 4 or 5 gear, which is really just worth like 20 times the amount that their set is worth, so it doesn't really make sense. And on the other end of the spectrum, there's some people that wear tier 3 horses when they're in like tier 8 gear. Really, if you're going in a cheap set, bring a cheap mount, and if you're going in an expensive set, bring a mount that helps you escape from gankers that's a little bit more expensive. The next tip that I have is to make sure that you plan your routes, know where you're going, and know how you're going to get there. The more time you spend sitting around in the Black Zone looking at your map and figuring out where to go, the greater chance there is for a ganker to come across you and kill you. Really, you want to know what zone you're going to so you can get there quickly and efficiently and get to your activity as soon as possible. If you don't have a specific zone in mind that you're going to, but rather like a type of zone, like a tier 7 zone or a snow zone or something because you want ore, my suggestion would actually be to take the Roads of Avalon because it can get you to safer zones. Essentially, the zones right outside the portal zones are going to be ganked the highest amount, and so if you take a road and skip to somewhere deeper in the Black Zone, there's much less likely to be gankers around there. The last tip that I have for you is to get used to going off-road. As we just talked about, the more time you spend going to your destination, the greater chance it is for you to get ganked, and if you do get ganked and it's a really competent gank group, as soon as you get tagged by one mob or one enemy attack like a poison, you're gonna die. So really, for both of these things, you really want to make sure you get comfortable going off-road and dodging all of the mobs that are there trying to hit you along the way. Really, I can't tell you how many people I've killed when ganking because their pathing was bad and they either got tagged by mobs or refused to go in the fastest route, or how many times I've escaped from gankers because I've simply just gone in the fastest route and not got tagged by any mobs. Really, it's a difficult skill to learn because all of the mobs have sort of different aggro ranges and run different speeds, and some you can aggro and walk past and some you can't aggro or else you automatically get hit by them. So my suggestion is to always be practicing when you're running around in your blue and yellow zones. Pretty much I never take the roads anymore, I just look at the shortest route between point A and point B that I need to go to and go as straight as possible and just practice dodging all of the mobs along the way. For survival in the Black Zone, it really is an invaluable skill, so I'd highly suggest you practice it at all points available. Okay, so that's all you need to know to stay safe in the Black Zone. If you enjoyed this video and it helped you, feel free to drop a like, and if you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe.